Hey guys, I hope you're doing great today. Guys, this is our second chapter of our Terraform series. In the first chapter, we discussed what is infrastructure as code, what is Terraform used for. We also have a quick look of Terraform providers, Terraform modules, and Terraform plugins. I hope that you remember all those concepts, and if you have not watched that video, make sure that it is on my YouTube channel so you can watch it and make your Terraform concept more strong. So in this chapter today, we are going to build and provision our first VM on Azure cloud. Okay. And this is our second lecture on Terraform, and we are going to practically see how Terraform works, what are the configuration files, or how a Terraform configuration file .tf file looks like. So we will also discuss the source code blocks in a Terraform file, and make sure that you subscribe my channel DevOps Molvi. I really need your support and I appreciate your support so far. So this would be our second lecture on Terraform, and let's get started. So guys, for your convenience, I have created this full-fledged Terraform repository for you guys, especially for you guys on GitHub. So these are actually nodes. It will contain the configuration files we work during our lab sessions, and how we can install Terraform, what are the other concepts or other Terraform commands. Everything we discussed in our lecture, I will make sure that we have that on this repository, and I will definitely share the link, the URL of this repository in the description. I have been sharing all the repository links in the description for the videos I have uploaded on my channel so far. So make sure that you must check out the description section. Most of the videos are uploaded with their respective timestamps so that you can find the exact thing you're looking for, and it will save your time. And also I have been sharing the repository links, URLs of my GitHub account. This is actually my personal account, but I have been publicly sharing all these repositories as notes for your future understanding, for your future convenience. So this would be our full-fledged Terraform repository, and I have named it as Terraform by DevOps Molvi. So DevOps Molvi is everywhere. I'm sorry for that. I'm not sure what you think about it, but DevOps Molvi should be everywhere in every GitHub or Terraform or on Docker and so on. So this would be the configuration file of Terraform, but before that, we have to know whether Terraform is installed on our VM or not. So make sure, again, I request you to subscribe, and this would be our second chapter on Terraform. So I will close it. Now I have this VM that I have created on Azure. So let's check the release of this VM, and it is actually Ubuntu 20.04. So Terraform, you can see that Terraform is not installed, and the method or the tutorial or the how-to guide of Terraform is literally very simple, and you can have your eyes shut and you can just blindly execute those commands, and those commands work as a charm. And I have also pasted all those commands and shared the full guide here quickly. Okay, so there are only 5 steps and we can have our Terraform installed. So I actually intentionally didn't install Terraform before, so I thought that we should together do whatever we do, right? So let's see how we can install Terraform. And I have this DevOps Molvi user, and it is a sudo user. And in the first step, we will install the system and dependencies that you have installed in Docker, and you will install in Kubernetes, you will install in CI/CD tools as well. So these are actually the dependencies that are additional packages, and most of the times these packages are already installed. You can see curl is installed, GNU PG is also installed, and also software properties common is installed, but our Terraform is not installed. In the second step, we are going to add the HashiCorp GPG key. Guys, Terraform is the product of HashiCorp. And in the first lesson, we discussed quickly about what is HashiCorp. HashiCorp is actually the Terraform provider. Terraform is the product of HashiCorp, and that's why Terraform is written in HCL, HashiCorp Configuration Language. So we will have the official package on HashiCorp, and we have to get it from there. So this key is actually used for the repository, so that these are some additional steps we have to do. And okay, so after that I will add the official repository for Linux, and it is also given by HashiCorp, and we just need to copy and paste the commands, and we will have the HashiCorp repository added in our Linux VM. So these are just copy paste commands, right? That I have shared. Once we add the keys and repository, we have to update the system. So these are actually the practices that should be on your fingertips. Now we will install Terraform. Okay, this is actually the command to install Terraform. So this practice will actually install the latest version of Terraform. So guys, that was the game, and Terraform is installed on our VM. Okay, now you can see we can view all the commands, and don't worry, we will discuss every command that is here on Terraform. Most of the commands that are known as the main commands, we will definitely use most of these commands, like Terraform init to initialize your working directory. For other commands, Terraform validate, check whether the configuration is valid. It will go through the Terraform configuration files. Terraform plan, before we apply, before we build our infrastructure, we can see the plan. The whole plan will show what we are going to build, and that's how we can apply the configurations. And we can also auto approve as well, create or update infrastructure. So these are actually the most famous, the most common Terraform commands that you must know while working on Terraform, because we will most of the time use these commands to build or even destroy our infrastructure. So this is actually the dangerous command, and it will destroy everything we build using the Terraform apply command. So we will use these commands in this lecture as well. So guys, we have Terraform installed. Okay, now what? Now we are going to build our infrastructure on Azure. So I have this Azure configuration file, but before that we must have Azure CLI on our VM as well, because we are going to, you can say, integrate. This is also how our Terraform knows I have to build infrastructure on Azure. How Terraform knows I have to build infrastructure on Google or AWS platforms. So we have this Azure CLI. Since we are going to provision infrastructure or our virtual machine, which is infrastructure, since we are going to provision our first virtual machine on Azure, we have to tell our Terraform that you have everything set for Azure, you have everything set up for Azure, and now you are going to build a VM for us on Azure. So we have to prepare the environment where our Terraform can easily talk to our Azure account. So this is actually my Azure account. So I have this, my personal account on Microsoft Azure, and we are going to install the CLI on our Linux machine. Our Linux machine does not know where our account is hosted on Azure, and it does not have any access keys, subscription ID, client ID, tenant ID, password, nothing. So we are going to first set up Azure CLI so that our configuration file, so that our Terraform can talk to our uh, Microsoft Azure account. And that's why this is actually the mandatory step. And when we will have Azure CLI, we are going to create a principal, and that principal is used in our main.tf file, which is azure.tf file, so that we can provision our infrastructure on Azure. Let's do this drill step by step. So first of all, we have to install our Azure CLI, and this is also a 5 or 6 commands tutorial, and you can find it on my repository in azure-cli.md. Sorry, the session has been expired. I will refresh it if I was not logged in. And so first of all, we can install Azure CLI using the following steps. And I have already updated the system before installing Terraform. We already have installed most of these packages, but still we can install sudo apt update. Okay, now my system is already updated, but for your convenience, I'm rerunning these commands again so that you can see the outputs of these commands. So you can see curl was already installed, gnu pg, and this apt transport https. This package is also used when we install Docker and other DevOps tools. So these actually are utilities. These are small softwares, but these are really helpful because these are dependencies to install the main package. If we are going to install Docker or Terraform or Azure CLI or even AWS CLI, you will see that we have to install these dependencies, and these are really important. So this is just a copy paste command. You must know what are these utilities. These are actually the dependencies required while we are installing any DevOps tools. So we might, in order to avoid errors during the installation, we have to install these dependencies. Now, download and install the Microsoft signing key. Okay, because we are installing the official repository, the official Azure CLI package from Microsoft website. So we have to, for security, we have to sign the Microsoft key, and just I will copy the command and rerun it. So it is saying that mkdir minus p, it is an invalid option. So try mkdir. So I will create this directory again, and now I will rerun this command and sudo in parts. Okay, so this command has run. This directory was actually creating errors, so I have removed it and then I have recreated. Now we must have cd key, and we must have the Microsoft GPG key. So that's how, guys, we can fix issues by breaking down the command. So the purpose of recreating these issues is how we can troubleshoot any given error. So that error has been fixed. Now the first step is add the Azure CLI software repository, and we are going to copy this command and just paste here, and we will rerun it. So it is saying that it has been signed by Microsoft.gpg key. So we are now ready to install our Azure CLI. So this command update the repository information, and Azure CLI package can be installed after the update, and then we are going to run the Azure CLI packages. And after that, we are going to install our Azure CLI using this command. Okay, I have mentioned all these commands. So if you are facing any issues with the commands, make sure that you must know via comments, and we can check those commands together. Alright guys, now you can see the following new packages will be installed, and we have Azure CLI installed. This is one newly installed package. Now we can run all the Azure CLI commands using AZ. Okay, now if I run AZ, so it is saying that welcome to Azure, and you can see there are tons of Azure commands. Azure CLI itself is a great tool to manage. Azure CLI is itself a great tool to manage all the Azure infrastructure using Azure CLI. So that's how guys you can install Azure CLI using these commands, and I have given all these commands. By the way, if you want to install it using the official repository, you can find install the Azure CLI on Linux. And if you are using CentOS, Azure Linux, OpenSUSE, or any other tool, Azure CLI has all the guides that you can use to install on macOS or on Windows and so on. So I will definitely share how we can install Azure on other platforms if you want to. For instance, if you have Debian on your VM, then this guide can be used that I have mentioned here on my repository. But if you have other OS platforms, then you can use Windows for Mac OS, and also you can use Azure Cloud Shell, and we can have Azure CLI in a Docker container as well. So these are all guides on official Microsoft Azure website. So back to our Azure CLI. Now we have to create a service principal for our Terraform. This is the mandatory step to set up our Azure environment for Terraform to provision infrastructure. Once it's all set, then we can provision or destroy or create VMs on our Azure platform. So this will actually give permission to manage resources in our Azure account. To whom? To Terraform. So I can copy this command and I will paste it here. Now it is actually Azure AD, Active Directory. We can see this command here as well. You can see Azure Active Directory. And what is the purpose of this? To manage Microsoft Entra ID and also entities needed for Azure role-based access. Azure roles-based access and through Microsoft Graph API. So we are going to use this Azure AD command to give Terraform access to provision virtual machines. Let me repeat it again. We are going to create a principal on our Azure platform, and this principal will give access to Terraform to create VMs. And without having this principal, our Terraform will not be able to create VMs on our Azure cloud platform. Why? Because if I open this, our Azure main.tf file or azure-vm.tf file, we are going to discuss it now. You can see we have to define our Azure service principal credentials here. So this command will actually create our credentials, and you can get your subscription ID from your Microsoft Azure account. Okay, you can have like for instance, if I search for subscriptions. Now you can see we have this, since I'm using the free trial, and you can have your free trial as well. So this is my subscription ID, and I can have this ID from here, and I will use this subscription ID and I will replace it here. Okay, I have replaced the ID, and now I will run the subscription ID as in this command. Sorry, I will clear, and now so it is saying okay, now you can see it is saying that, I'm not sure if you can read it. Let me change the colors, and I will not use the system colors for a moment. So you can see I have run this command, and it has created a role assignment under scope. This is my subscription ID. Now I have all these IDs and passwords here created here, and I will use this app ID, display name, password, and tenant ID in my main.tf file, which is here. So you can see it is asking for subscription ID, client secret, and tenant ID. So make sure when you create your subscription principal, service principal, you have to put your subscription ID, client ID, and client secret and tenant ID. Otherwise, your Terraform configuration file would not work. Now, I hope that you understand it. So you can get your subscription and you can run this command. I have already shared the command here. You just need to replace your subscription ID, and then you will get all the secrets that are required to be pasted in your main.tf file. And then you can you can provision your infrastructure. So that was actually the setup, guys. For every other service, we have to create a role-based access so that our Terraform knows where I have to provision the infrastructure. I hope you're getting my point. So role-based access are really important when we are going to provision our infrastructure. Okay, and now back to our main.tf file or azure-vm.tf file. This is really important to understand how this terraform.tf file works. And guys, still, if you have any questions, I would really appreciate if you write those questions in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer every query that you will ask. So you can see this is actually a little bigger file, but don't worry. These are all resources that we are going to create on our Azure portal. And I have mentioned what each code block is doing so that you have a clear picture. What are we building here? And now let's understand this file. Guys, this is really important that we must understand. I have this file as well. Let me open it. And this file is used to provision a VM on Google Cloud Platform. And also I have mentioned this file with comments. So you can read all these comments, and we are going to discuss in our next lecture how we can provision infrastructure on Google Cloud Platform as well. So that would be also a quick lab. But now for provisioning Azure VM, we are going to use the Azure provider, Azure M. And you can search for the providers here, and Terraform providers for Azure. And it is Terraform HashiCorp Azure M, and this is actually the Terraform registry where we have all these providers. Okay, and now Azure M is actually the provider for Azure, and similarly for GCP we have Google, and for AWS we have the provider as AWS. So this is important. And now you can see Azure M is actually the official provider for Azure on Terraform registry. This is actually Terraform registry. We can have every provider information from here, and this is actually the official provider of Azure. And you can see it has over 7 to 7.9 million installs, nearly a billion. And this Azure provider would be used in our Terraform configuration. So now we have this Azure provider, which is Azure AM from Terraform official registry. And this feature block is actually an empty block, and it is just to enable the features for this provider. Okay, this provider will have a lot of features, and this block is used to enable all those features. And after that, you can see we have our subscription ID, client ID, secrets, and ID, and we have to paste the IDs that we have created using our subscription ID. So once we have all these IDs pasted here, we are good to go, and we are going to create our resource group. And this resource group in which we are going to create our virtual machine. So I have pasted these comments, and you can see it is actually now it is showing that how we can create a resource. Okay, this is actually a resource, and don't worry about it. This is just predefined syntax of Terraform, and that's how we can create a resource group. We are going to create a virtual network, a public IP address. So we have to mention the resource. Okay, this is actually a resource that is going to be created on Azure. So these are Azure resources, and this is actually the syntax that is used for all the rest of the resources. Resources mean a virtual machine. Resources mean a public IP address, a private DNS, a resource group. So these are all resources. Okay, I hope that now you have a clear picture of resources, and this is actually a predefined syntax how we can have VM_RG means resource group, and this is actually the resource group name. We will have this resource name on our Azure portal. We will see. And I have mentioned this location since I belong to Asia, and this is actually the location. If you are using free trial or free subscription, you may not be able to create resources on regions like United States. Okay, so make sure that you choose France or Japan or Asia, so that you don't have any conveniences, so that you don't have any problems while creating. That's why I selected East Asia as my resource location. Now my resource group would be created in that location. Okay, and now after that, create a virtual network. That's how we are going to communicate with our virtual machine. And this is actually a virtual network, a private network, and this is the resource you can see. And this block will actually create a virtual network for us. Okay, the other above block that was creating a resource group using this block, this code block, and now you can create a virtual network using this. And now we can also enter the metadata. This is actually the metadata, and this would be the name of my virtual network, DevOps Molvi VM VNet, and this is the range of the address space. So my VMs in this resource will have private addresses like 10.0.1.2, 1.3, and so on. So, and this is actually the location. Now from where we are getting this location, we are getting this location from here. Okay, vm.rg. You can see vm.rg, .rg. And what would be the location? The location would be East Asia, and this location would be further used in the rest of the source block. And similarly, the resource group name, this resource group would be taken from here, Azure M resource group, Azure M resource group .vm underscore rg dot name. Now this is actually the syntax, but you understand how this syntax work. So now you can see this is our Azure resource group, which is Azure M resource group, and vmrg, our vmrg, and the name. So this would be the resource group name, and we will have the output as DevOps Molvi vmrg. So that's how this syntax work. I hope that it is clear. And you can see this resource group and this virtual network will be used further while creating the virtual machine. After that, now this same practice would be repeated again and again. Okay, and so that's why I will say that if you understand this Terraform file, this configuration file, you will not be having any issues further in future while creating other resources on other cloud platforms. So that is actually really important to understand how the Terraform.tf file configuration will work. And now similarly, we are going to create a subnet. Okay, and this is actually the resource Azure M subnet and VM, this the same syntax that we are repeating here. We are going to name the Azure subnet as DevOps Molvi VM subnet, and you can see this is our resource group. Similarly, our virtual private network, virtual net, and similarly our virtual network, and we are getting these values from above blocks. This is our virtual network, and the above code block is our resource group. And after that, this is additional metadata about the prefixes, and our subnet would be created. So these are all requirements for virtual machine. Since we are going to build a virtual machine in a that is actually a full package. We are going to have a resource group, a private subnet, a virtual network, and also a public network, a public IP address, and all these resource block will create that specific resource and provision the infrastructure accordingly on our Azure account. Now you can see we are going to create a public IP address, and this public IP address would be static. We are going to get a static public IP address, and we are going to use this public IP address to connect with our VM. So this is actually the code block for creating a public IP address, and you can see the same syntax is repeating here. This is the location, and the location would be South Asia, and this is the resource group name, which is here the DevOps Molvi vmrg. Don't worry, we are going to see when we run Terraform plan, we will get all these information in our Terraform plan command, and it will show all the output where your infrastructure is being provisioned, what is the resource group name, what is the subnet prefixes, and so on. So after that, once we have this public IP address, we will see what public IP address we are going to get after we run Terraform plan. And after that, guys, this is really important to have a network interface, and a network interface is used, and this is attached with our virtual machine. And using this network interface, we are actually going to connect with our virtual machine using the public IP address. So we are going to have, we can have dynamic private addresses, but we are going to have the static public IP address. And so that's how we can have just, this is just a virtual network interface card. Our Terraform will have a network interface card, and it will be attached with our virtual private virtual machine, sorry. and similarly the location and the resource group name. Make sure that you can name according to your choice. I have been giving DevOps Molvi name for everything, so that I have a picture that what resources I have been building. Now that we have a resource group, we have a virtual network, we have private IP address, we have public IP address, we are going to configure our IP address configuration, and we will use this code block to configure the IP address to our virtual machine. And we will have just like we have a physical IP address attached to a server, we will have a public and private IP address attached to our virtual machine. And after that, we have completed all the prerequisites for our virtual machine. It's time to build or provision our virtual machine using Terraform, and we will be using all the prerequisites that we have created, like resource group, virtual network, subnet, private IP address, public IP address, and we are going to use all of that here in our virtual machine source code block. You can see I'm creating a VM. This would be the name of the VM, that is just like host name, and this is location South Asia, and the resource group name as DevOps Molvi _ RG, and this is actually the network interface ID, so it will get it from here. Okay, this is actually the network interface Azure M network interface .vm _ nic, and we will have this name as our network interface card. So similarly, we have this size. This is the VM size that we are going to create on our Azure, and this is actually the username, and I will use the SSH key pair, and this would be the username to log in to our VM. And after that, guys, make sure you create a public key. I have already created here on my VM cd SSH. So I will use this SSH key pair to connect with, this is the actually public key that I'm using. I have the key pair with me, and I have given the path from where our VM will have the public IP address, the public key, sorry. And ensure that you have an SSH key pair created. I have already created. Make sure you create one for your VM. And after that, OS disk, and this is just like when we create a VM, we give the information about disks. This is actually the caching as read write, and so this is actually the storage account type. And after that, source image reference, and from where I am going to get the operating system. So this is actually the Ubuntu, and this is the release that I'm going to install. It is 18.04 and version is latest. And output the public IP of the VM. We are going to get what public IP address we are going to get. So I have all this configuration. This is actually the Terraform configuration file, and I have it here on my VM. So on CD Azure VM. Don't worry, guys, we will have more lectures on Terraform, and so we will make our concepts more stronger as we discuss more other Terraform configuration files. So I have this configuration file here and main.tf. So you can see I've replaced my Azure principal credentials here. These are my Azure principal credentials that I got using this command. Okay, I run this command. I have already shared this command on the GitHub repository, and after that, everything that I have used here updated accordingly, and I have the SSH keys. So we are ready to initialize our configuration file, and that's why I will run Terraform init command. This will initialize an empty Terraform directory. What is the purpose of Terraform init? And we get the information from here as well. It initializes the backend, Terraform backend, where our terraform.tf state is saved. And it also has initialized the plugins, and plugins are we get those plugins from our provider, which is Azure M, which is our provider. And you can see this is the provider, and we have used previously installed Azure AM, and using previously installed this provider version. Okay, Terraform has been successfully initialized. Now you can begin working with Terraform. Okay, and try running Terraform plan. Okay, and we are going to run this command, so it will give us a overview or a general picture of what we are going to build. So I'm running Terraform plan, and now we will get the full information of our infrastructure. Okay, now you can see what we are going to get here. Okay, so I'm sorry it becomes a little overwhelming for DevOps beginners, but if you understand it, if you focus it, everything is pretty straightforward. We are having everything here that we had given in our .tf file. So this is actually a JSON format, and we are having an overview of our infrastructure, what we are going to get. You can see I have given this name, and this is the same name I have given in my .tf file. So we are going to have this information what Terraform is going to provision. Now furthermore, this is my SSH public key, and it has taken my public key from the VM. And after that, this is my release, operating system release. And similarly, you can see the location, which is East Asia, and our address prefixes. There are some things that it is saying that known after apply. What does this mean, known after apply? And similarly, public IP address. So we are going to now run Terraform apply, and that's why some of the things, some of the credentials, we don't have the public IP address. So it says that when you will run Terraform apply, you will be given this information as well. So that is actually the meaning of known after apply. And we will get the information about, for instance, what is our DNS server? We don't know. What is our public IP address, or what is the ID? We don't know yet. And when we run Terraform apply, it will not only provision the infrastructure, but it will also share the information about our public IP address, our DNS server, and our GU ID and ID. So this is the actual meaning of known after apply. Now it's time to apply, and what Terraform apply will do, it will actually create all the resources, resource group, virtual network, private IP address, private subnet, the virtual machine, the disk, the network interface card, and everything that we have in our .tf file after running Terraform apply. So I will run Terraform apply, and we will have our infrastructure or our VM created, and it is saying that we are going to add 6 resources, 0 to change and 0 to destroy. So everything would be created for the first time. So what is the plan? 6 resources, all the resources we have here, virtual machine and resource group, network interface, public IP address. All these 6 resources would be going to create, and there is nothing to change and there is nothing to destroy. So I will it is saying that only yes will be accepted to approve. So we have to write yes so that it starts creating our resources. Now we have to sit back and see our resources are being created on our Azure platform or Azure cloud. So you can see resource group has been created, and similarly the subscription, using this subscription, and public IP address is going to be created, vnet virtual network is going to be created, and every infrastructure resource we have given in the .tf file is getting created. So we have to wait for a while. Now you can see our virtual machine is going to be created. This is the last step, and we will have our virtual machine on our Azure cloud, Azure portal. So we will definitely check where our Azure VM is created. If I refresh my resource group, okay, resource group, so we must have a DevOps Molvi VMRG has been created just a while ago. Okay, so the resource group has been created, and you can see all other resources have been created here. We have DevOps Molvi VM NIC. Now we have our DevOps Molvi Linux VM as well. So it has been created. Okay, finally our apply has been complete, resources have been added, and our VM has been created. So that was actually the output. We have this a public IP address, and the same public IP address we should have on our Azure. So I will copy it, and let's see if we have this IP address. Okay guys, you can see this is our IP address, and every information we have here, you can see the private IP address is 10.0.2.4, okay, as per our prefix, as per our subnet. And similarly we have this standard DS1 v2. Now let's compare the values we have given here in our address prefix. Now I will check the address prefix, and it should be like dot zero. Okay, now this is the now this is actually the address prefix, and it is good. And also we have the static IP address, and also we have this standard DS1 v2. Okay, we have this standard DS1 v2. So everything we have. Now the source image plan is also 18.04 LTS, which is the same we have here, 18.04 LTS. Okay, and we have everything created. We have all these resources created on our Azure platform. So if I check resource group, this is my resource group, and I have all other resources created within the same resource group. And guys, you can see we have this VM, we have NIC public IP address, and VNet. This is also the information about disk, and we can expand every resource to check what was created for us. So that's how guys we can automate our infrastructure provisioning. This was actually the first step to terraforming. This was our first step to create resources and a virtual machine, and we can have all this information here. And this is our public IP address. We have the same public IP address that we you can see we got from we have this information, and we have matched the public IP address as well. And now we have everything associated with this network interface card, and then this is actually associated with our virtual machine. So those resource group that we created were all prerequisites for our virtual machine. We created a resource group, a virtual network, a subnet, a network interface card, and after that we configured the IP configuration and attached everything to our virtual machine. And once we have all that set, we created our virtual machine. So you saw that how we created resources using Terraform. If I want to destroy all these resources, finally I will use the Terraform destroy command, and my resources will be deleted or destroyed. So it will also show us that these resources will be destroyed. Are you sure? And it will also ask our approval before destroying the resources. Now I will say yes, and our resources will be destroyed. So now our VM, resource group, subnet, network interface card, public IP address, private IP address, everything would be deleted. So by the way, this is a dangerous command, but we have to use it for destroying our infrastructure and rebuilding after making some changes. So now you can see our infrastructure is being destroyed, our virtual machine is going to be destroyed, and resource group and everything inside that resource group would be destroyed. So we have to wait a little bit more. Now some of the resources destruction has been completed, and some resources are still being destroyed. So since there are 6 resources, so that's why this is actually taking a little longer. And once a resource is destroyed, we get the information, the log, that this resource has been destroyed, its destruction has been completed. All right guys, now you can see the destroy has been completed, and resources, there were 6 resources that were destroyed. If I refresh this same page, and I should get an error that this VM no longer exists on my Azure platform. So that is why okay, so you can see this, the virtual machine resource was not found. So that's it guys, this was our first practical lab of Terraform, in which we created a couple of resources using one main.tf file. Now we are going to work more, and we will organize our Terraform configuration files, in which we will have a separate file for providers, separate file for variables, and that's how we are going to work with Terraform modules as well. So make sure that you use this configuration.tf file to provision a VM on your Azure portal. You can have a free subscription of Azure if you're a student, and or if you don't have Azure portal, so you can have a free subscription and enjoy 30 days free resources on Azure, and you can build your infrastructure on Azure. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I would love to answer every query that you have. And also guys, this is actually the DevOps Molvi for Terraform, and this would be our official repository in which we will share every knowledge that we practically work in our video lectures. And make sure that you clone this repository, make sure to give it a star, to give this repository a star, and you can keep watching it. We are going to make changes on this repository. Finally, I would really appreciate your appreciation. Finally, I would really appreciate your subscription on my YouTube channel. Make sure to give me support, and I'm really thankful from the bottom of my heart. I will see you in the next video. Till then, have a good one. Bye.